Hello everybody and welcome to another React and Django tutorial video. In this video, we are going to be implementing the play and pause feature, so allowing users to play and pause the current song. And then the next video, we will get to actually skipping the song, which is a little bit more complicated, but nothing crazy compared to what we've already done in this series. Anyways, another congratulations to anyone who is still here. I do apologize. I know I've been going quickly and I know there's a lot of stuff that's not getting the full detailed explanations, but just in the interest of time, I really can't explain every single line. This will literally take me hours upon hours to get through simple stuff. So I kind of have to assume that you guys have a basic knowledge. Anyways, I hope you're enjoying the project. Again, feel free to customize it as much as you'd like and leave any comments with any feedback you guys have. I'm always open to, listening to you guys and trying to improve my teaching style and all of that. So anyways, let's jump into this video. What I want to do now is work on getting that play and pause button to actually work properly. So if I go now to this site, we can see that the pause button is here. And actually, let me just pause a song. This is a good song to pause. And you can see that this changes to play, right? So it actually does indeed work. The icon is updating, but now we need to make it so that when we press this, it either pauses or plays the song. So let's do that. We're going to go to what is this here? Our views.py file, and we're going to set up two views, one for play song and one for pause song. So let's say class pause song. Let's say API view like that. And then inside of here, we'll define put. We'll say self request and then an optional format, which is equal to none. Now, the reason I'm doing a put request here is because the request we're going to send to the Spotify API is a put request. So it makes sense to kind of mirror the requests on our API. And that just generally makes sense because when you send a put request, you're typically updating information. So we're updating the state of the song. Anyways, the first thing we're going to do inside of here is we need to make sure that the user who's sending this request actually has permission to pause or play the song. So we're going to get the room code. So we're going to say room code is equal to self.request.session.get room_code. And then we're going to say that the room is equal to room.objects.filter. And we're going to filter for the room_code equal to, sorry, not room_code, but code equal to room_code. All right, so now we have the room code or the room, and we'll index that at 0 actually. And the next thing that we'll do is we'll check whether or not the guests in this room are allowed to play or pause the song, or if the current user is the host of the room, because the host can do anything, right? So we'll say if self.request.session.session, I guess this should be key, session_key, is equal to room.host, if that is the case, or if room.guest_can_pause, then what we will do is we will call a function which we've yet to write called play song. We'll pass the room.host in there. Now we'll write this function in 1 second, but let's return a response here. This is successful, right? In the situation where we can actually pause the song. That is a blank response, and we'll just simply say status is equal to status.http_204_no content. Because there is no content after you play the song, we're just simply saying, yes, this was successful, but we don't have any content to give back to you. Now, if that's not successful, we'll return a response. And this response is just going to say forbidden, like you don't have the permission to do this. So status is equal to http:/403_, sorry, this is status dot. I was wondering why the autocomplete wasn't working, and then forbidden. So again, we're just saying, if they are allowed to pause and play the song, so if this permission is true in the room or if they are the host, then we will simply play the song, or sorry, this is pause song, my bad. This should say pause song. And then we will return response as no content. If they are not allowed, we will return responses as 403 forbidden, which pretty much tells them, hey, no, you are not allowed to do this. Now, we'll write this function in a second, but let's just copy this because it's going to be very similar for play song. In fact, this is actually going to be literally identical, except instead of having pause song, we're going to put play song. So I was thinking for a second that it might make sense to put this all inside of a function, but then I was thinking, well, we need access to the response. We also need access to the self keyword. So even though this is a lot of repetitive code, which I don't like to usually do, we're just going to leave these as two separate views. So I had my pause song, just copied it. Now we're going to put this as play song. And literally the only thing we're going to change is this function here that just says play song. So exact same permissions, it's doing the exact same thing, except we're just going to call a different function. So now that we have this, let's go inside of utils.py or util.py. I guess we could have called that utils. And let's define a function called playSong and pauseSong. So we just need to take a quick pause before we continue and thank the sponsor of this video and this series, which is Algo Expert. Algo Expert is the best platform to use when preparing for your software engineering coding interviews. They have over 110 coding interview practice questions that range in difficulty from easy, medium, hard, and very hard. This is genuinely one of the best platforms to use to prepare for your interviews. It's the reason I was able to get a job at Microsoft and at Shopify, and also the reason I'm able to work at Algo Expert right now. So with that said, check out Algo Expert from the link in the description and use the code TechWithTim for a discount on the platform. So for playSong, what we're going to do is say define play_song. We're going to take inside of here a session ID. This is going to be the host, just like same thing here with execute Spotify API request. And all we're going to do is simply actually return the execute Spotify API request of the session underscore ID. And the endpoint we're going to hit for the play song is simply player/play, right? Pretty complicated. And then we're going to say put underscore is equal to true because this is actually a put request. All right, so now that we have that, let's just copy this and we'll do the same thing for pause song, except again, you can imagine that the only difference here is going to be rather than play, this is going to say pause. And this is also going to be a put request. And these, there you go, we are done. We now have the play song and pause song function. So those are working. This is all good. Now what we need to do is simply set up a URL for both of those views that we just made. So pause song and play song, and then use them from inside of our component. So let's go to urls.py and let's make this. So we're going to say path. We'll just call this one pause. We could do pause song, but it's fine. We'll stick with pause. And then this is going to be pause song.as_view. Then we'll do another one. This one will be play. And then we'll say play song.as_view. Okay, perfect. And that is all we need for that. All right, so now that we have that, we obviously want to start testing these out. So let's go into our music player.js and let's hook up these buttons now so they actually send this request to our API, which can then send the request to Spotify. Now, in case some of you are wondering why we're not just directly sending the request from our front end to Spotify rather than always doing it from the back end, you want to do this from the back end because we're using a token, right? We have our access token and our refresh tokens, and those tokens we need to store on the back end because we can't have them exposed on the front end. Otherwise, someone could steal user information, right? So this is just a kind of a security thing. Whenever you're dealing with APIs and access tokens, you always want to be handling any of those requests on the back end. So that is why we're doing that. We're sending kind of like a dummy request from the front end to the back end, and then the back end is sending the real request, which is actually kind of doing the real work, right? Sending the thing to Spotify. And before I get ahead of myself, I'm sorry that I'm kind of going all over the place right now. There's actually a small error that I just remembered we need to fix. We need to go into Spotify views.py. We actually need to go to refresh Spotify token. Oh, sorry, that's in util.py, my bad. Let's go into util.py, not views.py. Inside of refresh Spotify token, we just need to remove line 62. So this line, I guess I'll leave it up for a second, was trying to get a new refresh token from this response where we pretty much send our refresh token asking for a new access token. Now, I forgot the fact that we actually don't get sent a new refresh token. Our refresh token stays the same. So this line will actually cause an error when we do try to refresh our token. So we just need to remove that line. So now when we pass refresh token into update or create user tokens, it will just pass the same refresh token. So all is good. We're just not going to be passing the value none into there essentially, which is what was happening before. So hopefully that's clear, but just fix line 62. Again, code will be linked in the description. Okay, so now apologies. Let's go back to musicplayer.js and let's write a few functions that can send a request to actually pause or play the song. Now, we don't really have to check for any like permissions on the front end here. We can just try to send the request to the back end. And if it works, we had permission to do that. If it doesn't work, well, we just didn't have permission and just didn't work. So let's write two methods inside of here. The first one that I'm going to write is going to be called pause song. And these methods are both going to be very similar. And then we'll write play song like that. Now, inside of pause song, what I'm going to do is say const request options like that. is equal to, the first key I'm going to have is called method. We've done this many times before. This is going to have the string put. And the next key I'm going to have is going to be headers. And this is going to say, as the first header here, content hyphen type. And this is going to be equal to the classic application slash JSON. Okay, that's all we need for request options. There's no payload or data we need to be sending. Then we are going to fetch the slash Spotify slash play or slash pause for pause. We'll pass the request options. And that's actually all we need to do. We don't really care if this gives us an error, if it tells us that it's forbidden. If that's the situation, it just won't work. Now, we could pop something up on the screen and tell the user like, oh, you can't do that. That's not allowed. I'm going to let you guys handle that if you'd like to do that. For this tutorial, I'm just going to not do that because we don't really need to. And then for play song, we're going to do the same thing, except we're just going to change pause to be play. And well, that's all there is. We have pause song and we have play song. All right, so now that we have that, in theory, this should just work. So let's go here. Let's actually refresh. Notice that we are indeed the host. And also, just so you're aware, you saw there it kind of lagged for a second, and then it wasn't showing all of the information about the song. Like here, for example, right? That does happen. And in the situation where we just don't have information about the song, this player will just be blank, right? You'll just see the icons and you'll just see a little bar. If you want to fix that, you can make the default state store like a default title that says like no song playing or something, and like a default album cover. Like you can do that if you want, but I'm not going to do that for this series. Anyways, let me try to pause this and let's see if this actually does work. Doesn't look like it did. And this reminds me, I always forget to do this. We have these two functions defined, but we're never calling them. So what we need to do is actually call them. So let's hook up our icon buttons now so they are actually calling these functions. So on our first icon button, I'm going to define an onClick. This onClick is going to be equal to an arrow function. And this arrow function is simply going to call this dot. And I guess this reminds me that now the function we're calling is going to depend on whether or not we are playing the song, right? So if we are currently playing the song, if it is in play mode, then we need to call the pause function, right? Or the pause song. But if we are paused, then we need to call the play song. So that means that we just need to write something that's a little bit more advanced here, nothing too crazy. We're going to say this dot props dot is underscore playing. And then this will be question mark. So if that is the case, then what we will do is we'll call this dot, I believe this should be pause song. Otherwise, if that's not the case, we'll call this dot play song like that. So I think that's all we need for this onClick. Now for the skip onClick, we'll do that later because we haven't yet handled the skipping, but let's see if this works now. Okay, so let's refresh and give it a second. Okay, loads it up. Let me pause and notice that it does actually pause. You can see the bar is no longer moving. On my Spotify, it is actually paused. And then if I press play, there you go. The bar starts moving and it plays the song. Now, of course, when you guys do this, you'll actually hear the music. So it'll be a lot more engaging and fun than what I'm doing here because I can't play any of the music. But that is how you get the song to play and to pause. So with that said, I'm actually going to leave the video here. In the next video, we're going to handle the skip button, and then I'll kind of talk about what we're going to be doing to conclude this series because we are almost done. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in another YouTube video.